The Dementors of Harry Potter are the physical embodiment of fear, depression, and the loss of hope, or in simpler terms, not the type of person you'd want to invite to a party. But how did this foul species get created in the first place, and how does their population grow? Today, I explain how the first Dementor was created. Hey everyone! Links to all 7 Harry Potter movies are in the description, so if you haven't watched them in a while, go relive the wizarding experience now. But back to the matter at hand, how did these soul-sucking creatures come into existence? J.K. Rowling herself has stated that Dementors do not breed, rather they grow like fungi under certain conditions. I think this has several important implications, of which I'll delve into right now. Firstly, we know that Dementors do not need each other for reproduction, unlike most living things. This means that they can never really become extinct, as even if none remain in the world, they can still appear again as long as the conditions are right. Rowling has also said that those conditions include despair and hopelessness, which makes sense given their character. So here's my theory. I think that Dementors can be born from one of 2 ways, either from an entity with a large enough concentration of the conditions, or from simply receiving the Dementor's kiss. I believe that over 95% of all Dementors are created from the latter option, and that because of this, there may even be a hierarchy among the species, but more on that a bit later. Receiving the classic Dementor's kiss has always been feared by the whole wizarding world, as recipients are known to be left as a shell of themselves. This explanation has always been very vague, but is it possible that the shells are just newly formed Dementors? In other words, do people turn into Dementors themselves after receiving the Dementor's kiss? I think this would make the most sense. After all, we never get to see a witch or wizard who's been kissed, and we don't even truly know what happens to them. But if the process is just what it sounds like, getting your soul sucked out of your body and becoming worse than dead, then turning into a Dementor would fit perfectly. Just listen to what Lupin had to say about the kiss. You can exist without your soul, you know, as long as your brain and heart are still working. But you'll have no sense of self anymore, no memory, no anything. There's no chance at all of recovery. You'll just exist as an empty shell, and your soul is gone forever, lost. This sounds nearly identical to a description of an actual Dementor. That's what Dementors do, they just exist in that cold, empty state. This would also help to explain why the Dementors sided with Voldemort during the war. On the Prisoner of Azkaban alone, you wouldn't think that the species would be able to make logical decisions, as we don't even know if they're able to think at all. But if Dementors are simply witches and wizards without souls, they would obviously have minds, proving them capable of intellect. But as I said earlier, this is only one of the ways I think Dementors come into being, so what's the other? For this, we have to go all the way back to the 15th century and the ancient history of Azkaban. The treacherous island wasn't always a wizard prison, and in fact started as an unmapped location in the middle of the sea, where a dark wizard named Acristus lived. Acristus apparently resided there alone and took fun in luring in sailors and torturing them with the dark arts. Once Acristus died, the concealment charms he had put on Azkaban faded, and investigators found the island infested with Dementors, what was probably the first time the species was discovered. The Ministry and most people naturally believe that they were born from the dark magic and despair left by Acristus, but I have another idea. I think that Acristus actually turned into the first ever Dementor, instead of dying. The other way that Dementors can be born is from a regular witch or wizard suffering from overwhelming darkness, despair, and hopelessness, and when they have no light or happiness left, they become a soul-sucking shell. Acristus would be the perfect candidate for going through this, because he was all alone on an island, doing nothing but torturing and killing for years. He had no happy memories left in him, and at that point, he was transformed. But then how did Azkaban become infested with so many Dementors, you might be asking? Acristus only turned into one, so where did the others come from? Well, they came from the first way Dementors can be born, through the administration of the Dementor's kiss on a human. Acristus never left the island. He was always there, just in Dementor form. And so when sailors continued to pass through, he would attack, and they would become Dementors themselves. It's sort of like a plague where, if you get attacked, you become one of the attackers, spreading it to others. And this means that every single Dementor was once a human, either before they were kissed or before they lost all of their happiness. I said earlier that I think over 95% of all Dementors are formed through the kiss method, since there aren't that many witches or wizards who lose all happiness in their lifetime. But I think the 5% that are formed through the loss of happiness are, in some ways, stronger than the other 95%, and this may mean that Dementors have a type of hierarchy among their species. Notice how they usually come in clusters, so maybe each cluster has a leader of sorts? I don't know, what do you guys think? You also might be wondering, if Dementors are formed from wizards who practice the dark arts, why didn't Voldemort turn into one? It's because although Voldemort was certainly dark, he was never exactly lonely or despair. He always had at least a few Death Eaters to support him, and grew happy at the idea of killing Harry and ruling the wizarding world, whereas Acristus didn't seem to have a purpose. Maybe you also have to die naturally in order to turn into a Dementor, something else I'd love your opinion on. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss any future Harry Potter content. Click the bell to make sure you get notified whenever I upload. Thanks for watching, see you later.